Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you my Zombie World deck profile. Now, Zombie World is a deck that I enjoy very much because it's a deck that have the type of monsters I enjoy the most to play with, which is zombies. Obvious, right? If my favorite deck is Vengeance. And I really want to also give you a nice final list before we get the support from Dimension Force, which is supposed to come out in, like, I guess 3 to 4 months. I don't really know exactly the date. I think it's like the start of May, maybe the mid of May. So I thought, why not one final time before we see that support, we'll give you a support, or should I say, update for this particular list. But before we jump right into the video itself, I'm going to remind you that if you want to see more videos like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It helps a ton. And in the last day or so, you guys have been doing an amazing job. I don't know where out of the blue it came out, but I am really appreciated on the increased on views and the number of subscribers that I had. Like, it's actually quite big for my small channel in a point, so I really appreciate it. And also, if you enjoyed the video, give a like and let me know in the comments down below what you will change for your own list, because I'm really interested to hear everybody's thoughts on different things. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video itself. Alright, so jumping right into the list itself, we're going to start things off with the starters, or the important cards of the deck, which are the 3 copies of Unizombie, 3 copies of Solitaire, 3 copies of Mizuki, and then the 1 copy of Gozuki, which I'm actually putting it like this just because I want to explain some things. Now, these particular 10 can be run even as 8 or even 9 or whatever you want to run specifically depending on your own build, but I felt like 10 is just really the correct ratio as over all of them. Some people like to run 2 Mizuki, some people like to run 3. I'm from the people who like to run 3. I sometimes thinking about cutting it down to 2, but I do like this in my hand, and I do play another package that kind of like take advantage of this being in your hand as well, so you can discard it. So I do like running this at 3. In the case of these 7, this is basically depend again up to personal preference how many starters that you want to, because Solitaire is basically 3 copies of Unizombie, which is basically your best starter of the deck, so it's kind of like running 7 starters. Gozuki is really depends. Sometimes I like 2 of it and then like to cut Solitaire to 2, or maybe Unizombie. It really depends, but I do like Solitaire less than Unizombie because Solitaire is susceptible to hand traps, and it's not a tuner. And if your opponent ash this when it's activated disaffected, like you going super neg, unlike these 2, which even if your opponent hand trapped them, this one still does something in the graveyard as long as you have another zombie, and Unizombie is still a tuner for things like Hacky Fibrax. So it's really depend on what you want specifically from your own deck, but I felt like these 10 are very solid. Now again, it's really depends on you, but I like them very much. Next up, for the additional zombie-related stuff, the Zombie World engine itself, we have the 2 copies of Doom King, the 2 copies of Necrold Banshee, the 2 copies of Glow Up Bloom, the additional target for Glow Up Bloom with Jaco Bolin, and then I also throwing the one-off copy of Plague Spreader Zombie, which is probably the card I'm not 100% sure about. But for these particular engine, we have the Zombie World package, which Doom King is your main boss monster that basically is 2 negates, or should I say 2 interruptions in 1 card when you have Zombie World, and comebacks every single time, which is really powerful. Banshee is supposed to be your way to see Zombie World, which is kind of like activated directly from your hand or deck by banishing herself from your, I think from field or graveyard, yeah, from field or graveyard, so you activate directly from your hand or deck the copy of Zombie World, and it is a quick effect, so that's actually really good if you need to basically your opponent like destroy your own field spell with like a get rid of it with like a Cosmic Cyclone, and you have a copy of this engraved. This is still able to activate another one directly from your deck, so that's why I like to run this at 2, and it's also just really important for some combos to open up with this in your hand. Glow Up Bloom is basically the tuners that you summon with Hacky Fibrax, because it allows you to basically, when it's sent to the graveyard, to add from your deck to your hand a level 5 or higher zombie to your hand, but you lock yourself into the zombies. When you send to the graveyard, you banish it, and you do that. And then on top of that, if you do have Zombie World, you can special summon the monster from deck instead. So the point is like, if you have Zombie World, you summon Doom King, or if you already have Doom King, you summon Jaco Bolin, because it's also another really good interruption by itself. And Jaco Bolin also opening with it in your hand is not bad. This guy is really easy to summon as well. You discard a zombie, you special summon it, and it's kind of a nice interruption and snatch steal from your opponent, which is really, really cool, from their own graveyard. And then Plague Spreader Zombie, I like it, but I don't like it because the decks sometimes have problem with using too many cards in your hand, but it's also really, really nice for some synchro plays, as well as just being a good target to help you sometimes normal summon this, have an extender, and go into Hacky Fibrax if you don't have anything else and you're still able to combo off. Or if you already see Glow Up Bloom, this is your other tuner that you can summon from your deck that is actually worth it. So, I don't know, it's really depend on you, what do you want to do with this spot. You could decide to cut it, or you can decide to leave it in your deck. But that does it for the zombie stuff. Now we'll move on into the rest of the stuff, which is the engine that I mentioned, this card that's really help. It's also the engine that I like in Lightsworn, and that is Dangers. I want to say this right now, Dangers are really good in a deck like this, because you want to get cards out of your hand, and you want extenders. And these 6 are really good. Now, I was considering maybe cutting down the Mothman, and essentially only running these 4, but I do like the Mothman because it's giving you additional discard, like a draw and discard of what you want to, if it's get discarded itself, or it's an additional level 4, which could work with your Unizombie, which could work to bring out your level 8 Synchro of choice if you want to, or just in general, again, it's another extender. You can decide to cut these cards, and they could be the 6 spots for whatever you want, but I like these so much in the deck. These could be additional hand traps, these can be additional traps, these can be additional extender for zombies themselves, but I do like these 6 very much because they do what they need to do. They give you the additional bodies that you need, get cards that you don't need out of your hand, and maybe draw into better cards, which is very nice. Or if they get discarded themselves, they do some pretty nice stuff. But that does it for those, and then for the last few cards, we have Artifact Scythe. We are going to use this card as long as it's legal. If this is going to get banned, I'm just going to pay something else, and it really doesn't matter for the deck that much to play the Scythe, but if you have the option, why not take it? I mean, locking your opponent for a turn is really good. It's kind of like a necessary evil that we can play in this format, but if this get banned, like I said, I'm going to say a million times, it doesn't really matter for the deck. We can play regardless without it. It's just a very convenient way to make a deck a little bit better when it comes to like certain cards and combos in your hand, and just make your opponent's life a little bit more harder to break your own board. So that's the only reason why we're playing this. Again, if it get banned, it doesn't really matter. Just replace it with a hand trap or another card of your choice. And then for a hand trap of choice, at least in the monster lineup, I'm running 3 copies of Effect Veiler. I just really like this hand trap, and there is a particular card that I do run in a deck that take advantage, or at least in the extra deck, take advantage of like a light target and a dark target, which I think you already know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, we'll get to it into the extra deck, and that's why I run 3 copies of Effect Veiler, because I can get one of these to my hand, probably, with that effect. But that does it for the monster lineup. Now we'll move on into the spells and traps, which there's not really a whole lot of them. There's only 12. So let's jump right into them very fast with the 3 copies of Zombie World, the 1 copy of Terraforming, the 1 copy of Instant Fusion, and the 1 copy of Ready Fusion, Foolish Burial, 2 Polymerization, Super Polymerization, and then the 3 copies of Infinite Permanence. This is only the lineup of spells and traps that I run, which I don't really think I need to explain way too much. Now, these don't really need explanation because they're hand traps and they're really nice. In the case of Zombie World, again, don't really need the explanation because it's a part of your deck and it's very important to have on your side of the field. Some people like to run only 2. I think as much as like people like to complain that this is a bricky card, worst case scenario, you open up with it and you just don't use Necroroad Banshee in your combos. It's really simple as that. It is a shame if you draw into multiple copies of this, but I think it's so important to open up so you can actually do your plays. Foolish Burial Goods, oh, should I say Foolish Burial, the original, I don't know why I said goods, is also doesn't really need any explanation because it's just dumping whatever you need. And then these 4 maybe need an explanation because Instant Fusion and Ready Fusion kind of like supposed to help you bring out Sea Monster of Theseus, which is your instant fusion target. But the reason why I only run 2 of these is because A, I don't only have 1 space, B, I just only have 1 ready fusion target in my extra deck, or should I say like a normal fusion monster in my extra deck, so I don't really see the reason to run more than 2 copies of these because they do serve as extenders, but I don't really want to see them that much. If one of them get negated, I have the other to summon that monster, but regardless, like in later turns, if I see this and then I don't really like, have an extra target in my extra deck, this becomes dead, and for that reason I'm playing the Dangers instead because they also serve as extenders but they're not dead ever when you draw into them, so that's why I like these a little bit better than the Ready Fusion, although I do think that Ready Fusion instant fusions are really nice. As for Super Poly, some people are probably going to ask me why only 2. Well, I know that there's some people who like 2, and some people who like to run 3. The reason why I specifically don't run 3 this format, even though I like mostly to run 3, is because of the fact that it's not really useful this format. It's really good to bring out this guy, or a Starving Venom's Fusion Dragon during your opponent's turn, or like, using your opponent's monsters, or even a King or Swamp Dragon, or whatever that's called, the Fusion Swamp Dragon. They're also really, really good. I like them a lot, but the problem is that this format, we don't really have a lot of monsters with the same attribute but different types. Kind of we do, but not really, even though with Lyra Lusk and stuff like that. And also, like, a deck that only have darks, we don't really have that as well. Although we should have that after Grand Creators, maybe with Phantom Knights and stuff like that. But it's still, again, it's really, really weird, this format, to use Super Polymerization, at least for me. So that's why I'm running it at 2. I do run a 3rd copy in the side deck, but for the main deck, I only feel like I need 1. You could run the 3rd copy if you want to, but that's the reason why I only run at least 2 for me. But that's pretty much does it for the main deck. 40 cards, not really need to go over it. Now we'll go into the extra deck, and for the extra deck, we're going to start with the fusions first, with the 1 copy of Sea Monster Thesis, the 1 copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, and the 1 copy of Dragon Necro Neversoul Dragon. Honestly, I don't really think I need to explain any of these. This is a one-off just because I feel like I don't really need to run a second one in my extra deck. It's just too much, especially with the things that I have right now in the extra deck. This one is the other Super Poly target if I need to for going into Darks. Again, could be Swamp Dragon, but I think this is just well good enough. And then Sea Monster Theseus is your instant fusion / ready fusion target, which again doesn't really need any explanation. Next up for the Synchros, we have 4 of them: Formula Synchron, TG Wonder Magician, the Chaos Ruler, and then the 1 copy of Barony Deflar. These 4 are the cards that I decided to go with. Basically, they're really, really good. Synchron is to summon from Haki Firebrax to use Doom King plus the Synchron to summon the level 10 Synchro. And then this is supposed to be the other target when you have the Artifact Scythe combo, to then use Scythe in it to go into this, and also use this to pop the Scythe. That's kind of how the combo works, which you will see in the combo section, and when we're going to talk about that. Now, the reason why I also decide to run the Chaos Ruler is because A, I didn't really have anything else that I could think about that I want to run, and B, it's a great card level 8. Like, if you can summon this with, like, a Unizombie plus a level 4, which does happen sometimes, you have a card that dump cards right into your graveyard and giving you maybe a card into your hand. Like, you have a lot of, like, different types of, like, or should I say, different zombies that you actually want in the graveyard. You don't really have a whole lot of, I guess, dark monsters and light monsters, although you do have the dangers and effect veilers as well, I guess. But, like, the most important thing and aspect is that this can get a lot of cards that you want to into your graveyard, which is amazing. So if you are in a pinch, this is what it's used for. Now, as for Barony Deflar, this is not necessary if you don't have the money. You can always play Shiranui's Sun Saga, which is fine, although I think this is better if you have it, because this is a negate and is a pop during your turns if you want to, as well as, like, returning to the extra deck and get something back. And just recycle itself. But in the case of, like, also because Zombie World could get destroyed by your opponent during their turn, this is also activated regardless. Unlike Sun Saga, which is like if they destroy before you summon it, the pop effect to return this to your extra deck and then pop a card will not work, because this will not count as a zombie in grave. So keep that in mind when you're playing the deck. So that's why I really, really like this more. But again, if you don't have the money for it, Sun Saga will do just fine. And then for the Link monsters, we have basically 8 of them. First off, Linkaribo, then Artifact Dagda, Crystal Haki Firebrax, Vampire Sucker, Adventured Savior, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, and Boral Sword Dragon is my extra deck, at least for my own choice. Of course, you have places that you can switch whatever you want to, depending on your own locals or pocket meta, but this is what's working for me. Boral Sword for OTKs, Unicorn and Phoenix to help you remove some particular things. Phoenix is to remove annoying back row like Imperial Order and stuff like that you're not able to. If you're not able to put 3 monsters on board, for Unicorn to just get rid of it with like a spin. So that's sometimes a thing that happens. Vampire Sucker is a lot better than I gave it credit for in my previous list or just in general. Especially right now, because she's able to giving you additional multiple draws, and with additional support we're going to get in Dimension Force, it's even going to become more insane. However, I still think that you do need the one copy of Avenged Savior just to help you deal with some annoying monsters that you need to get over by battle. If you need to just use 2 zombies and just bring something, and then like it sends a Mizuki, and also just deal with something annoying, so that's why I like this card. As for these 3, part of your combo, Crystal Haki Firebricks to summon the things that you need to, Dagda to put the artifact Scythe, and then Linkaribo is because you need to link off the Glow-Up Bloom. Now, one thing I would mention that I forgot to mention when we actually talked about the deck is that artifact Scythe, even if you open up with it and you don't go into the Dagda, it's not dead. So the worst thing that you can do is that you set this, and then you use your other effect, like, you know, use the Crystal Haki Firebricks, go into it and just sit on it, and you still have the ability to do, you know, the TG Wonder Magician pop. So just drawing into Artifact Scythe is not the end of the world, but we do prefer to get it from our deck with the Dagda because, you know, it's a little bit more good for our hand to use less resources from it for our plays, because this is kind of like a control deck. But that's pretty much does it for the extra deck and does it for the deck profile as a whole. So hope you enjoyed. This was a really fun deck to revisit. Again, it's one of my favorite decks to play because zombies is my favorite type. So yeah, I really like this deck. Now, of course, there's different deviations depending on what you want specifically to play in your own deck, but I think this is a really good solid list to get started, or just in general to maybe build upon depending on what you want specifically. But that does it for the list itself. Let's move on into the combo section, in which I'll teach you 2 very important combos. Welcome to the combo section, and in the combo section I'm going to teach you 2 base combos that I think are very important to know playing this deck. The standard combo, and then the artifact combo. Now, there's really not a whole lot to explain about this, so we're going to start by jumping right into the combo itself, but I would say for the first combo, you need to open up into a way of getting into a tuner, which is a starter, or, you know, a Gazuki plus an instant fusion, and a way to get into your zombie world in some kind, shape, or form, if you need kind of like a revival. So, for example, if you open up with instant fusion and Unizombie, you don't really need to basically foolish this from the hand, because you'll foolish it from the deck. It's kind of like small little things like that, which you can basically playtest yourself, but I'm just going to start with this base combo. So starting things off, we're going to normal summon our Unizombie and use this effect to ditch from our hand the Necroroll Banshee, and then its second effect to ditch, or should I say send from our deck to our graveyard the Mizuki. We're then going to use Mizuki effect Engrave to banish itself and summon the Necroroll Banshee, which is important that you wouldn't banish it immediately, because we do need the additional monster on our side of the field to link into Crystal Haki Firebricks. Crystal Haki Firebricks effect will allow us to special summon from our deck the Glow-Up Bloom, and then we're going to use Bloom after we're going to use the effect of Necroroll Banshee in our graveyard to activate directly from our deck the Zombie World, which I'm going to put here so you guys can actually see it. Now we're actually going to use the Bloom because I almost forgot about it, and we're going to link summon into Linkaribo. That will allow our Glow-Up Bloom to banish itself because it was sent to the graveyard, and instead of just adding it to our hand because Zombie World is on the field, we summon the Doom King. Next, we're going to link the Doom King and the Linkaribo into Vampire Sucker and pass the turn to our opponent. Now, that doesn't look like a really big board or something really intimidating, but you have to understand that Beldrock or Doom King return every single time in the standby phase if you have a field spell, so basically it just returns back and giving you a free draw with the effect of Vampire Sucker. And then you can use both of its effects when you want to, like of course when it's come up. You also have Crystal Haki Firebricks itself, which allowing you to summon directly from your extra deck the Formula Synchron, which is another draw. And then after you use all of the effects of this guy, you can go into a level 10 Synchro, which could be a Barony de Flor, or if you don't have it, a Sun Saga, which will return this to the extra deck and giving you a free pop. There are so many things that you can do with this, which is really cool. So this is a combo that is basically 3 interruptions in a way, and then 2 additional draws in hand, which is really cool. So that does it for combo number 1. Let's move on into the second combo, which is the Artifact combo. Alright, so for the Artifact combo, you need to open up with Solitaire, plus a Mizuki. Now, of course, there are different variations for this particular combo depending on what you open up with, and of course, different cards in your hand. But to make things simple, we're just going to do the Solitaire plus Mizuki, which both of these are cards that you run at 3, so your chances of seeing these is actually not that bad together in your hand. So basically, let's get started. So starting things off, we're going to normal summon the Solitaire, use its effect to tribute, and special summon directly from your deck the Mizuki, and use Mizuki effect to send directly from your deck to the graveyard the Gozuki. Gozuki effect, because if it was sent to the graveyard, we banish another zombie, and then special summon a Mizuki out of your hand. So Solitaire was banished to activate the effect. We're then going to link these two off into our beloved Crystal Hacky Fibrax, which then will trigger his effect to summon directly from your deck the Glow Up Bloom. We're then going to use Mizuki effect, banish itself, special summon the Gozuki out of your graveyard, and then use Gozuki effect to send from your deck to the graveyard the Necro Banshee, and banish it to activate directly from your deck the Zombie World. So now you got yourself the field spell and everything that you need to set up, and we can link these two off into Artifact Dagda. Next, because this was sent to the graveyard, we banish it, and special summon directly from our deck the Doom King, and then we pass the turn for our opponent. Now again, just like the first combo, doesn't really look like a big intimidating board. However, during the standby phase, you can do the following. We banish the Crystal Hacky Fibrax, and use the effect to summon directly from our extra deck this. But because an effect was activated from the field, our mandatory, or should I say the effect of Artifact Dagda, will activate that will allow us to set directly from our deck to our side of the field the Artifact Scythe. And then the effect of this will resolve to special summon itself. Then the effect of this will trigger, which is basically TG Wonder Magician effect is mandatory, so you can destroy your own Artifact Scythe and special summon it to your side of the field, locking your opponent out of their extra deck. Now, another thing that is really cool is that sometimes people will try to throw a Chalice on this in this moment, because some people don't play Droplets, of course, because Droplets is expensive. So there are a lot of people who would probably just play Chalice, or, you know, Infinite Impermanence or things like that. But one thing that is really cool is that when you activate this effect, this will trigger to basically allowing you to quick sync. So the effect will still go and resolve, and you're also getting yourself a Baroness. And one thing I would say is that even if this doesn't stay on the field, this does resolve. So keep that in mind, is that you can quick sync immediately to prevent yourself dealing with some particular hand traps like Infinite Permanence, Chalice, and other things like that. Now, of course, there is the option, of course, if people run DD Crow for some reason, I don't know. Maybe actually DD Crow doesn't really work on this. You know what I mean? It's like, if people run like Cold by the Grave to respond for this, maybe, but I don't really see that really working that much. Or if your opponent run what it called? What's the name of that? The cross-out designator to specifically banish their Artifact Scythe to not lock you out of the, to prevent you from locking them from their turn with their own Artifact Scythe. It's kind of a weird thing, like the only thing I can think about that can just really beat this is like a cross-out designator, which is like thrown, and then your opponent banish their own Scythe, and then they negate your effect. But you're still getting 3 interruptions, so that's still pretty nice. But that does it for the second combo, and does it for the combo section as a whole. Let's move on into the next deck choices. Alright, so one last thing before we move on into the next deck choices, actually, is it's something that I actually want to discuss a little bit more in depth when we'll get to the update video, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to release next week, but if not, at least I'm going to talk about these two particular things right now, which are technically one thing, and that is the fact that I want to do some Let's Plays, or should I say, recordings of Let's Plays for the channel. The first one of them is a Let's Play that I already discussed with my community in the community tab, if they actually want me to see. Mostly it seems that people want to see that because they already voted for the starter that I should pick up in the Duel, which is the Fire Red hack of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of like using Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards instead of Pokemon, which I found really, really cool, and finally got its update. I think it's a few months ago, but finally got its update for me to want to play, which I finally noticed. So if you want me to see me play that, let me know in the comments down below if you want, and also if you don't. I'm really, really interested to see both aspects. The second thing is that if you want me to see me, or should I say, if you want to see me play Master Duel, that's also another thing that I'm considering, because Master Duel is apparently a new thing right now, which kind of dropped out of the blue. I kind of wasn't prepared for this and didn't really have the time, but I can record myself playing it, as well as maybe do some really, really cool things specifically for Master Duel itself, because apparently there is a different new format, which is the combined format from the OCG with Master Duel. I'm not really 100% sure how that works, and because of that, I'm actually interested to maybe make its own content for that, as well as maybe also just playing it for fun, and essentially also help for people that actually only play Master Duels at the same time, because I've seen some people who like my videos here, but they're also playing Master Duels. It's kind of like a weird thing, so I really, really need to know what to do with that. But that out of the way, we can move into the next deck choices finally. Sorry about the rant of like 1 or 2 minutes, but I felt like that was necessary to get off my chest. I also going to put that in the comments if you want to basically respond to that and you decide to skip on this, or you just want to read it. That's also an option. But anyway, for the next deck choices, we have 4, as usual. The 3 returning from last week, which are Lyrilusk, which I'm hoping the ban list will drop out pretty soon so I actually can do them, Dual Avatar, and then lastly, specifically, the Marincess from last time. And then for the 4th option that I'm going to throw in, I actually had a very, very hard time to decide what I want to throw in, but I decided because I didn't do them for a very, very long time, sure, let's throw Unchained again. I think Unchained will be a really, really cool, just fun deck to essentially do again, even though it's pretty much didn't really change. I think it's really cool to, again, revisit Unchained. I think they're really nice. But those are the 4 options that you have. Marincess, Unchained, Lyrilusk, and I forgot the last one, Dual Avatar, obviously. So these are the 4 options. Let me know in the comments down below which one you want to see first. But that's pretty much does it for the video and does it for the deck profile as a whole. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.